never shoot me anything.
What happened?
I still love you.
I was in love with her.
Hey everyone, Connor with Wax Future here. Today I'm going to show you a quick track breakdown of our newest track that's getting released on the Aspire Higher compilation, Fundamentals. Super excited to be a part of this. Really incredible list of artists on this compilation. I'll put the pre-save link and the link to the release in the comments. All right, so I'll give you a quick blast here of the track just so you can hear it here. Here's the first verse. And then the hook here. So those are really the two main parts in this track. It's really kind of like your classic hip-hop arrangement where it's verse, chorus, and then we've got a guitar solo on the outro, very reminiscent of like some old school R&B tracks. So let's get into it here. I'll start with the drums, and I'll just solo them out. All right, so first thing here is the break. So these drums are really just a layered break that I chopped up here. This is from Splice. Chopped it up to make my own pattern. Worked with it a bit, but it's got a cool, really hi-hat feel to it, so that's mostly what I wanted to steal from it. And then I've layered in a kick and a snare just to make it hit extra hard. I do also have a crash in here as well. This is a reverse crash and a regular crash. I do this a lot just to transition from part to part and add some energy building aspects. Cool. So that's the drums. There's a little bit of processing on them, on some of them individually, like an EQ on the snare, and but I really haven't done much to them individually, and I'll focus mostly on bus compression usually. So I have the drums compressed with a compressor called Presswork. This was actually recommended by Tycho. Not that I know him, I just hit him up on Instagram and asked what he uses for parallel compression on drums, because I absolutely love the drum sounds that they get, especially when they're layered with real drums and electronic drums. Anyway, this compressor has some features that I really love. It's pretty similar to your typical compressor controls with a ratio and your attack release response here. But what I love most about this compressor is, one, the mix knob here, which allows you to dry, wet, blend and do parallel compression, and then the side chain, which allows you to dial in how much of the low end you want to get compressed. So this essentially allows you to let your kick and any other low end that you'd like to not get compressed while the other frequencies get compressed. So it sounds really cool. And here I'll go ahead and bypass this. And actually let me solo the drums here. So this is without the compression. And with it. So definitely adding a lot of color, a lot of saturation. And then I've really just blended in the heavily compressed signal here and use the side chain. Anyway, check it out. Presswork by UHE. Cool. So that's the drums. Moving right along here to the bass. So I'll start with just the regular bass line. This was actually a plug-in, a contact patch here, the Scarby Rickenbacker bass. To me, it sounds a lot like a P bass, a Fender P bass, and that's what I play live. So a lot of times I'll write tracks with this just for the simplicity of having it as a plugin. And then I can translate those bass lines to live pretty easily. Anyway, it sounds fantastic. Here it is. I'll solo it out. Yeah, so that's it. Out of the box, it sounds really good. I just used the neck DI preset, and yeah, it's great. So then I've got the lead bass sounds, and actually there's just one mid bass sound, but it's the Moog Sub Fatty that I have, and then it's layered with some serum just to give it some thickness and some stereo spread. Anyway, here's the Moog sound. Can definitely hear the filter working on the top end there. And then here's the serum sound. And this is really just to give it some stereo thickness here with the unison voices here. And here's them together. Cool. So the other synth sound that I designed here on the Moog is this lead part that comes in halfway through the chorus. This is one of my favorite lead sounds that I've programmed on the Sub Fatty. It's got really good pitch modulation on the release. Anyway, this has just some delay. Echo Boy Jr., one of my favorites for delay. If you're not familiar with this, it has some different algorithms that are replicating some classic delays, like the space setting is the space echo, plex is an echo plex, memory is the Memory Man Bucket Brigade delay. So a lot of kind of cool vintage style delays here with this guy, and it's pretty inexpensive, and it's got a really simple user interface, which I always love. So that's the delay, and I do also have a spring reverb on this as well, but I'm going to talk about that one a little bit more as we get into the guitar sounds. But I also have this micro shift plugin. This is also a Sound Toys plugin. This is kind of like a Eventide H9000 like stereo spread, and it can really take like a mono sound like this lead sound and give it some width, and it pulls it out of the center a little bit. So I'm using that here to give this top lead some width, and also it helps it like get out of the way of that mono bass that's coming straight up the center. Cool. So that is the bass sounds and also the lead sound. Next up, I'll just cover the samples that I have here. At the heart of this track is the two different samples. So I'll start with, actually, let me just solo, the first one. So just a sample, I believe this is from Splice that I chopped up, pitched a little bit, and then I have this second sample as well, which is just another layer. They're kind of collaged together along with this horn part that comes in halfway through the verse. It's just kind of like some cool reverb delayed out horn sample chops. But you can see I'm just using a bunch of reverb and delay here, which is Echo Boy here on my send, and then also Little Plate, which is also a Sound Toys reverb. Anyway, that's the verse samples, and then in the chorus it goes to two different samples. First, this harp sample, I love this. It's got really good, kind of like happy energy. And then this is the second sample here. Just got that catchy vocal in there. Cool. That's the samples. I also have this mellotron instrument grouped in here because it's part of the chorus. It's just strings that are sidechained to the kick. This is mellotron. This is an Arturia plugin. I love all these plugins, but I really like this one for like strings. It's got that kind of like vintage tape string vibe to it. This is a replication of the actual mellotron old school keyboard. Cool. So that's the instruments. The final things here, I do have some scratch vocals here. These are just different scratch vocals that are chopped together. This is kind of like an idea that's taken from hip-hop tracks that just have scratch vocals as the chorus. So I was trying to create like a call and response with the scratch vocals to just make its own part.
It's gonna be another nice day. It goes on and on and on. It goes on and on and on. I got you watching that tonight like
yeah, and some compression, dimension expander on there to give it some width. This is a free plugin. It's made by the same guys that make Serum, I believe. Anyway, it's great for vocals and just adding width to stuff. Also synths and whatnot. Cool. So lastly, have the guitar. There's two guitars here. The first one I played. It's just a rhythm chuck here. And I'm using one of my absolute favorite plugins here, this Arturia Rev Spring 636. I just love the sound of it, and you can like use this input to drive and get some really cool like distortion. It sounds awesome. Anyway, check that out. And I'm also using another Arturia 76 compressor here. If you're not familiar with the 76 FET compressors, this is a replication of a vintage 1176. And it's probably the most popular vintage compressor out there, but it's got a really colorful sound, and you can push it really hard, and it's got a really quick attack and release. And anyway, very versatile, very colorful. Check it out. All right, so that is that guitar. Lastly, Keith's guitar on the outro here for the guitar solo. I did virtually no processing on this aside from just EQ and that spring. Oftentimes I'll add this decapitator plugin if I want to give it some distortion or get a crunchier tone, but this is pretty simple processing here. Keith's tone already sounded great, so I just left it as is. And that's it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for checking this out. If you dig this, I'd love to do some more. Let me know. Also, let me know if you have any questions on any of the stuff that I've shown. Always happy to connect with fellow producers and Wax Future fans. So, again, thank you. Thank you to the Aspire Higher team for selecting us to be part of this compilation. Absolutely so excited to release this track with you. Check it out. All right. Peace.
Another shooting idea. What happened?